Okay, so here we are in Sparta, moving our way through the Second Peloponnesian War, Peace of Nicias. Section of this scenario. And what's happened? Well, the Spartan position is continuing to snowball into greater and greater power. What you're going to see is that Attica itself is going to fall over to Sparta. I don't know what else. It looks like the Hellespont is switching over as well. The Ionian coast has fallen neutral, but you know, it's going to be really hard to dislodge a power like this. And this is really a snowballing that happens because the interwar phase doesn't punish the leader enough to kind of set the scenario to what it historically would have been. You had one side or the other in the lead, and I think after the First Peloponnesian War, the Athenians were doing relatively well, but they managed to abuse their position of power. And from history of the era, whoever was in the lead, when they kind of fell into some sort of peace or period of less conflict, the more powerful side ended up abusing their power and causing their allies to kind of fade away. There's no balancing mechanism like that in the interwar stages, so that's part of what you see going on here. Before I get into the Peace of Nicias section, a couple of things have come to my attention. First one, the most recent, and then we'll rewind back further. On the last video, I had mentioned, hey, there's nothing under the leaders about what to do if a leader dies. Yeah, okay. The designer pointed out, though, that it's over here under hoplites and triremes. If a leader is removed from command section, which will remain in place after the battle, he must be replaced by any other leader selected by the owning player from the ready box. If there are none, with a leader from the spent box. I thought I remembered something along those lines, which is why I was really confused not being able to find it under the leaders section where I would expect it. Anyway, the other one is something that I misunderstood a comment that he made, which is, I'm trying to remember what it was. It had to do with the leader die rolls. Now, where do I find them? I mean, I can find them on here real easily, right? At the end of the battle roll for leaders. So it's going to be in the battles section that I'm looking for. And I think what he was saying was, I said, yeah, nothing happens if you get a success check when you're already a veteran. There actually is something. If you're already a veteran, the owning player draws a battle card. I just, like, my reading comprehension is not good anywhere, apparently. But again, vaguely in the back of my head, I have to say the format of the rules, the more Euro style that the rules are, the harder it is for me to convince myself I want to look anything up, because it's just hard for me to do. And again, this is just personal taste, you know. I like a certain style of rules, and these. It's hard. You can't really chase references or anything like that. The only place there is anything is the index. Gives you page numbers, and maybe there's something like page numbers elsewhere, but you know, it just doesn't get me into that reference number chasing aspect, which I'm used to doing, you know. And I have to say, if you look at like GMT rules nowadays, they're somewhere between the sort of, they have numbers maybe, but they're somewhere between this kind of all text and you know, utilizing the mechanisms that wargaming found that it needed to use to make more complicated games more accessible. Now, for me, this is a relatively simple game. So there's kind of an understanding of why maybe you don't use the case numbers and all that. But anyway, I just wanted to catch those before anything else happens. It's, I guess, Monday morning. Getting kind of grayish. It should clear up a little bit. Yesterday was all rainy, but I'm just awake really to play Raid, and I woke up, it was still dark, and now it's not still dark. It's much, much later, and I still have more to go. So, like I said, Ionian Coast goes back here. Attica shifts over to pro-Spartan because Athens is not in control, and we have these. In terms of income, it's horrible for Athens. Huge amounts of capital for Sparta here, not anywhere near as much for Athens. One thing I didn't do though, normally, like I've had this question, so I make sure to get this in the pool. It's not right now, but this is just any favor, so I can get the poop instead, which is fine. I don't think that's impacted anything so far in the game. But it's one of those things where it wasn't absolutely clear from the rules which way it should be. And with the picture, it confused me. We got the leaders in play. Hoplite reset, what's that mean? That means we count the armies. Okay. They're both even, so they both go to 5. No sieges. And then it's the 3-point cities, which Sparta has 2 of. Oh, the Hellespont also went over. Sparta has 2. Athens has none. Shipbuilding. They're both even again. Sparta will pay. And I believe that forces Athens to catch up and try to hold a position with them there. It's really hard to get up to the high siege rolls. Recruitment. There are a couple of pieces that are not in play yet. And the question is, how much are they worth it, right? So Ionian Coast is over here. That's fine. The only 2 that are out of play are the Aetolians. Definitely want to buy the boat. So that costs me 1. But the question is, do I want the skirmisher as well? I think so. I got a lot of money. The skirmisher, it gives me some options here. I'm still way behind in the skirmisher fight, but it opens up options in terms of like, hey, maybe I can end up winning this, or maybe I can sacrifice a skirmisher to get a battle point or something like that. So yeah, we'll pay it. You know, $1 is pretty minor for that setup, and that will throw us to just making sure, because normally there's something I get wrong, right? Like the leaders aren't ready or something. I guess I moved them at the end of the turn. I don't know when they're supposed to happen. It's not in this sequence that I saw when I looked last time. And it's not, oh, here it is. No, and receive fresh leaders. Yeah, somewhere it must be though, because I know I found it before. But it's just something that's easy to miss because it's not on the cheat sheet. And we deal 6 more cards to each player. This situation is looking hopeless for Athens. It really is. And I may bail simply because, you know, once I hit this 3rd war, if it just keeps rolling in this way, what was, you know, maybe a relatively close situation and probably should have stayed a relatively balanced situation, at least until a certain point. So here's the thing. If Athens falls, the world changes a little bit, right? But not really. Because Athens does fall, and there's like, that motivates Thebes and Corinth to go against Sparta, you know? It's kind of funny. The same kind of power politics happened, apparently, in the darkest of times, the furthest back that we kind of have stuff like ancient Samaria and stuff like that, where, alliances would form, but not long afterwards, as soon as the current threat is over, they would kind of fall apart and become again, hey, can I gain an advantage? Who can gain control of the whole region? Not in Greece, but in the Tigris-Euphrates area. Yeah. All right. So we'll deal some cards, and I guess we start playing. It's oriented there at the end because the pipe that I had, about half of it was unsmoked, but it packs too tightly to really smoke particularly well while I'm playing. Not that I smoke all that much when I'm actually playing. I often, especially when I'm on video a lot, I often just take it and put it aside. But I'm like, screw it, man. Let me get the pipe that I want for the, the few pennies that I'm saving, maybe by not smoking that. But on the other hand, I get pissed when I dump out a cup of tea accidentally, or lose a cup of tea somehow. Of course, that usually involves a mess too, and again, it's just a couple pennies, All right. I actually have to check to see if there's more video on this, like if I already played this turn. I don't think I did, right? I finished up the Academia Noire yesterday. I didn't start this yet, because when I dealt these out, there's actually not 6 left for the next part. So we are going to reshuffle this deck in. I guess it would be pretty hard to have enough cards left over from the previous. It's possible though, so there's still a consideration there. Let's take a look at what Sparta's choices are, see if there's anything exciting here. Democratic constitutions. Athens has to spend a favor. Okay, for an uncontrolled envoy. Sure. Syracuse sides with Sparta. Control of Syracuse counts as double for victory determination in this one. They must spend a favor to send a greater envoy to Syracuse. That will not give them Syracuse, so it doesn't really side. But okay. Not exactly why Syracuse joined, so Athenian Temple Fund. If Athens holds their desperate times marker, they gain money. Otherwise, they regain the marker. That's kind of nice. Tissaphernes. Sorry, that's got to be Tissaphernes. I don't know. If uncontrolled, send a greater envoy to Persia, and you can resolve control. Rebuild or promote a Sparta elite. If already veteran, I get a card. A lot of removals here. Spend a favor to send a lesser envoy to a space in Sicily and one in Anatolia. So this could finish off my Syracuse holding, assuming I have the favors to do it all. Now, I already get the points for Sicily, so there's not a hell of a lot for getting Syracuse. What there would be is another point in the army strength. There aren't enough, at least yet, city-states to really boost yourself from high up to there, are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, I guess there are. I was in the middle, which is why I didn't gain as much. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm having trouble deciding, you know, just motivating myself to do anything. I guess it's not so much the pipe. The Western Envoy, which lets me get an extra pip into Syracuse, that'll get me control of Syracuse when I play the other one. I'm running low on favor though, so. Which might be a good thing because I've got some cards that I kind of don't want to play for favor. It also throws one into Aetolia. If I did this, if I controlled all of Aetolia, actually, there's this as well. Okay. If I controlled all of Aetolia and drew that and played that card, if I had a favor, I would still have to spend it. It's if you do not have any. The only time you can avoid spending on these things is usually, every now and then they're worded differently, if you don't have the cost, and then you get the lesser effect. You can't choose the lesser effect just because the greater effect doesn't help you. And then I'm mobilizing the Strategos, who has a battle advantage. I thought I had a siege. Yeah, see, I have Brasidius. Do I want to do him instead? He gets an extra die when sieging. Athens is tough to siege. Even though I control Attica, that's going to give me a die. I'm going to lose a die as well. I've got the advantage in battle strength. I'm okay in battle cards. Am I okay in land cards? Not really. Not particularly good. But I don't want to buy a card. So I'm going to send him with his +1 strength. I'm going to try to smack Athens. And one of the things is, the more hits I make on it, the more I drain the Athenian money. And if I can get a chance to, I'm going to like discard the pro-Athens card that I have. Let's look at what Athens has. Closer ties, we've seen that. Oligarchs return to power. Sparta must spend a favor to send a lesser envoy to a space in the Cyclades and Ionian coast. If they do not have any, to one of those regions instead. This is not great for me, right? It says they must. Well, yeah, but because the Ionian coast, that would swing it to them. Cyclades, it would swing it away from. I mean, I've got nothing left, right? Argive alliance gives me a shot at Argos. Now here, actually, is the only place where I've seen the even if contested, whereas I may have allowed envoys to happen when contested, i.e. under siege or raid. If Athens controls the Hellespont, they gain 3 more talents. Spartan control over the Hellespont counts double during victory condition. Wow, that sucks. We got a couple of these that we're going to have to keep hanging around. Spend a favor, Cyclades and Ionian coast. Theban stratagems, we've seen that before. Okay. For whatever reason, I had an extra E in there. Theban. It should be Theban strategies in English. In a way, of course, the endings are English endings, but it's Thebes, so it should be Theban, but I don't know. Kind of like Heracles and, well, Herculean. Heraclean. Kind of want to hold on to the closer ties until I run my favors out so that I can send for free a cube to Athens. I go with the Eastern Envoy, clearing out some of the problems that the Spartans have been doing to me over in my east. And I'm going to build Cleon as an army because when he gets spent after a battle, he gets me some money. Money is a big problem for me right now. I'm going to pause there. I'm almost out of tea, and I'm kind of not really, I don't know, not really all that charged up. I'm just still wondering, because I thought I counted the cards and got everything, you know, and was sure that there were too many cards. there were enough cards in here that this was never going to show up. But I think I just was mistaken about that. Rather than go down and check the video. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm babbling a lot more than I have been for the most part. Sparta's put the pips in Syracuse. I'm going to put this up here to remind me that there's a victory point aspect to that. Is it just Syracuse that's worth double? Or no, it's all of Sicily. Yeah, it's the only thing that makes sense. Okay. But that changes the nature of stuff and kind of forces Athens, who was at a very powerful point when they made the decision to invade when they made the decision to invade Sicily. They were at a very powerful point, and now they're just getting overwhelmed, right, for this scenario. Now, this would be kind of weird within the campaign because, again, this is supposed to trigger on turn 6 of this scenario. If you're playing the Grand Campaign or an extension of Second Peloponnesian into whatever this other one is here, the Theban War, Theban Corinthian War. Corinthian? I mean, if it's Theban and not Theban, it should be Corinthian, right? I don't know. Yeah. Would you still leave that doubling of victory points for Sicily as a whole? And again, I feel like the game is really focuses on the scenarios so much that I think that my view, where the scenarios should each be evaluated separately and the campaign used to simply glue them together, is a better strategy. I don't know. You know, but certainly in terms of the historical implications of what happens if you try to balance across the whole campaign, or not try to balance across the campaign, but try to prevent or try to allow for the runaway leader problem, which I really, in a 2-player game, should you have that? Well, I don't know. Anyway, enough on that already. Enough on it. I played that. And I wanted to play, what is the picture on here? Oh, I bet you I'm supposed to put this as some sort of reminder of that. I'm going to still put this up here to remind me as well. But the two together should help me a little bit. And then I am going to deploy to siege Athens, because why not? I'm not sure what I'm going to build yet. I have the monetary advantage, so I want to keep pressing the Athenians. A fleet could go into Athens and siege it, so that's actually a possibility because I have a card that helps me with fleets, and I could gain the advantage on that as well. Plus, my battle cards actually apply better for sea battle, I think. This reduce an opposing allied fleet. And for the battle, I played to improve Argus. I've got a handful of cards I don't want to play that I'd love to discard. For my battle, I move into there, great. I'm going to send the Navarch out, who is yellow, so he's been bonused already, to contradict Brasidas, who probably is going to try to siege Athens as well, because he's a siege dude. And in this battle, we immediately see Sparta is way up in value, 3 points up already. One for here, one for control of Attica, one for the army strength. And we'll hand cards out. I don't expect this is going to go well. Looking at my battle cards, and this is one of the problems with playing solo as opposed to playing opposed. I may reverse my card play decision. This has nothing to do with anything anyone else has done. I could spend a favor to send a lesser envoy to any uncontrolled space, which includes Athens. So instead of playing this, which was just a greater envoy to Argos, if I play the closer ties here, I'm allowed to put this into play. Why do I want to do that? The reason is because I have this reassess control over a battle region and recheck the home ground advantage. Then you can spend a favor to award regional rewards. This is a big deal. Okay. So currently, before, favor was 1 point in favor of Sparta. They lose that. I gain it. I'm going to spend a favor to take Attica, and I get the $3 as well, getting all the regional rewards. Now, this is the thing. It's like, it's not absolutely clear, like the wording to this is to award regional rewards, whereas in the others it's like to assess control of the region. Maybe you don't generate the rewards in those other cards because these are worded differently. Maybe all that happens is the control switches for who gets the value, and this may have been what the person was commenting on, was the differentiation between assigning the rewards and just assessing who has control for home field advantage. It's one of the problems you get to when you start putting, when you start putting rules in cards that aren't covered in the rule book, and it's a pretty common problem in a lot of CDGs. You don't see it in too much in sort of the big guys, like when Mark Herman does one, you don't see this kind of error coming in. But you do see it a lot with people who are very much in favor of CDG designs, but maybe aren't as careful about making sure that everything that's on the cards is well defined somewhere. One way to handle that is to have a compendium of all the cards and, with the additional information, because there's just not a lot of space to put all the information that you need on here. But there are common things like, what does it mean to reassess? What does it mean, what does it mean to do regional assessment, right? Here, regional assessment and shuffle the battle deck. We can drop the bottom half. Regional assessment, check each region and ally to determine control and give rewards. That sounds like that's regional assessment. But then here, it's worded differently than assess the region. Or, I don't even remember how it's worded. Let me see if I can find one of the cards that says that you can reassess. It doesn't even use that. Sparta sends a lesser envoy to Thebes, and may spend 1 favor to immediately resolve control of the Boeotia region. So it doesn't even say to assess, it says to resolve control, which is not something that's used anywhere, right? And so I can't even figure, does it just mean it changes who controls it, or does it mean that it also gives the regional awards? And then if it is, then why does this say, then you may spend a favor to award regional? This actually seems weird because, not only does it not say that I assess, it's just recheck. Here it is. Reassess control over the battle region and recheck the home ground advantage. Then you may spend a favor to award regional rewards. So I almost argue that the reassess control, if it used that term, assessment is here, that would almost automatically give the rewards. So this is being stated the way it is to make the rewards contingent on the favor. And I think that's the intention. And I think you're supposed to give the rewards on those other cards as well. But I'm left again with like a, yeah, but I'm not sure. You know, I'm making it up, right? Anyway, by doing this, I drop this to a much, much closer battle, one that I can win, I think. But I've got a problematic situation, which is eliminate your named leader to gain 2 battle strength. That's the only way I can get this, and I kind of want those 2 talents, but winning the battle might be more important to me. At least here I might force Sparta to play a card. Of course, they got 3 cards, you know. Wants to play a card. I'm thinking I'm going to play this one. Allied Fleet Withdraw, can't play that. Fight in the Shade, reduce an opposing skirmisher asset. Okay, I could hit one of these, no problem. Then you can reduce a cav asset to gain a battle point, but that would neutralize this, so I'd end up even with that. So I'm going to hold this until maybe it's more valuable or something. I don't know. It probably isn't going to be. For this one, if not in play, gain the mercenary. So here I could reduce an opposing mercenary or Phoenician. There aren't any. And he doesn't have any anywhere else, so it seems safe. If not in play, gain the mercenary elite asset. You can pay 2 talents to promote it. I'm not going to promote it. I'm just going to grab it. And the main reason for doing this is so that I'm back down to 2 cards. It doesn't give me any battle points or anything. That puts me back to Athens. And now they've got the hard choice. Do they want the heroic? Basically, I choose one of these 2. Since I played this, I feel like I should kill Cleon off. But what is Cleon's other side? First of all, I'd get $2, and I'd get more next turn. Jeez. Like, I'm wasting a kind of cool card, although I did gain some things, right? I gained some cash, which I needed. I gained a battle. You know, I'm going to actually play the General's State and hold on to this. And I think Sparta is going to hold on to their cards because they're winning the battle. Athens doesn't want to force the issue. Once I played this, I'm not going to surrender my leader. So now I roll. There's another +1 I didn't count. Actually, because we were already at the top of the chart, we overran the top of the chart, so we stopped at +3. We are going to kill the Strategos, which puts him down here as spent but normal. And we are going to not kill ourselves. And they go home. And we go home too, but we're spent and we gain 2 talents off of it. Now, in terms of battle though, Sparta won the battle, so they get a favor. And they also only lose 1, whereas we lose 2. Our army's strength is likely to drop down to 0, which means next turn we're even weaker. It's not that big a deal. We're probably always behind. And that will put us back on the Sparta turn. I'm trying to read the rules to something relatively complicated that I've never faced before. Like, it caught my eye and I'm like, hey, kind of reminds me a little bit of Banish All Their Fears that I did recently. And I want to see, like, it was a game I picked up because it had this cool kind of combination of sort of a command view and a battle view to the game. Different in terms of like some of the concepts behind it, I'm sure. This is a Civil War game, but American Civil War. But it intrigues the hell out of me, and I really want to try it, but I haven't looked at it at all before this. I've been kind of afraid of it because I know the rules are going to be tough. Anyway, I'm trying to read, but I went outside on my porch, and it's been raining. And unfortunately, some of my tarps have come down, but I've got a kind of draped over my chairs. But the chair that I like to sit in had a big pool of water in it, and I don't want to sit my ass on a damp chair particularly. So it was kind of a thought. It was a little prettier for a little while too. But I'm also like, I'm just so unused to just sitting and reading. Like when the power was out for a week and change, I got very, very used to just like reading because it's the only thing I could fucking do, and only during the daylight hours. And I wish I had kind of kept that, because I like doing that a lot more than I like just listening to videos, and it certainly helps me in terms of getting games to the table, is spending a lot of time reading. On the other hand, I also, pay over $100 a month on my interwebs. There's kind of this feeling of, oh, well, I had to take advantage of all of that. My way back upstairs because I wanted to check something that I have a clue, or that I had a thought about, which was I counted this deck. Now, I've played a couple of cards already on whatever this turn is, but what cards are in here should be some effect, should be some indication of what's happened. So the first thing I did was I scanned through them, and sure, there are a lot of, just a lot of cards here. But there's piece of Nicias cards in there, and there are a couple of them in here. And that kind of worried me. But remember, they could have overlapped from the last deck. Yeah, they could have still been in the deck, not the discard pile, and got shuffled back in and got recycled in when I moved to the Academian Warp part. So when I counted these, there's like 12 per round. Of course, this is a problem too. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm worried. 5, 6, 7. I'm just really worried that there's more in here, because this should be the cards that were pulled out in this scenario. And there's a lot of these in here. So, but these came out here. These are all, well, not all of them, but these are almost all, these are all Academian War cards, right? So they came out back here before I did the reshuffle. I'm just trying to figure out what I have here, because I have 12 and 9. Let me just recount. I have 21 in here. Now this would generate 24. But yeah, I got no way of telling. The only way I have of telling is looking on the camera, and now I'm too confused to really be able to do that. Like, I'm getting too tired. I'm pretty sure we're on this turn, but I've kind of lost some track. And part of the reason I'm somewhat uncertain is that I didn't have my dice up here at the beginning when I came up here today. I don't know. Did I play some of this last night after I did the resolution here? That's the big question. I really just don't know. I really don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, I was thinking I would play another card, but I'm just so discouraged by like my thinking about this. Well, let's do it anyway. Open up by playing this. If uncontrolled, send a greater envoy to Persia, and I spend. Sometimes I forget to do that. I spend the favor to resolve control. That gives me naval superiority. I already had the cav superiority, but it bolsters it a little bit. And then I have to decide what I'm doing with Brasidas. Athens is kind of more out of my reach now. Attica has fallen over to them. I don't feel like it's necessarily the best place for me to go any longer. Which kind of means, well, what do I want to take if that's the case? And under those circumstances, I think the Ionian coast, which I've seemed to have lost, may be my best place to go. And then what do we deploy? Well, where do we want to go is kind of the question. I don't feel like I have a lot of capability with land troops. If I send land troops, they can attack Athens. Now, putting a raid on Athens is of some value, though. Maybe I just want to raid Athens to take Attica away next turn. Yeah, but no. It's the wrong guy. It's the wrong guy to do that with. During Hoplite Reset, this would be useful to go for a siege of something big. Is there anything big I want to siege? Not really. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy myself yet another fleet. I'll put the Nav Arch in because he's my naval dude. How am I in cards? I got 2 instead of 1. So we'll sit with that. And we hand it over to Athens again. Send our own Nav Arch in to attack there. What's that going to be for fleet battles? Ionian coast is uncontrolled. Naval strength is the same, so it's just +1 for Sparta to begin with. Both players are down in cards, so we draw 2. Well, 1 for each player. I'm sending the Polemarch on an army. Why? Because I want him to threaten something. Thebes is probably the best given my cards. Assume that there will be a response by Sparta, and that's fine, but he gets spent and I get to discard a card. Possibly the one that involves Thebes. So yeah, I want to build a hoplite there. What that means, though, is that his naval dude is actually going to be uncontested. All right, battle cards. I'm the one attacking. Chooses not to play a card. They're going to lose the battle in that case. Question is, does Sparta want to play this card just for the sake of getting another battle card on their next battle? It's a fleet card. They've got a fleet out here, but they're not being challenged. So I think so. Reduce an opposing allied fleet asset. Okay. Then you may reduce your own allied fleet asset in order to gain a battle strength. Well, I can buy this back for $1. Is it worth doing? I don't know if he's sandbagging me. It seems highly unlikely. So what I'm going to do is only on a 1 will I reduce my own. Oh, okay. So which one do we want to reduce? I'll reduce Persia and gain another battle strength. Of course, he wasn't sandbagging, so that's going to be a Persian or a Spartan victory. Get one of these, and we're still driven away. Now we take a look. Brasidius. Oh, forgot to do my leader loss check. Shouldn't have done it. No. Okay. And did I count him in? Actually, I didn't count him in. He had a +1 strength. So actually I had to do this Did he have something he might have done? Yeah, he probably would have played this to begin with, to try to get the advantage. Okay. Just trying to be fair here, because he has to play a card first. If he didn't play a card and he didn't play a card, then it would have ended in a draw, and I would rather have the win, I guess. All right. I don't know. And that... Oh, actually, he had to play first. Oh, boy. Is that right? That can't be right. What the hell? No, because I put this here. I'm getting lost. I'm getting lost. Let's see how many cards. 3, yeah. Another problem. More to do with, I don't know. Has to do with me being on camera so much. Like, when I'm just playing, I can kind of remember where things are. Me being a little tired, the up and down, you know. Yeah, it came right back up, but whatever. Anyway, I'm definitely going to pause. Passed out reading, something that I do when I lay down on the bean bags. But now I got like 15 minutes before raid, so I figure a card each. Makes sense there. We're going to open up with the democratic constitution. Athens must spend a favor. This will get rid of their favor, which is part of why I'm playing it. To send a lesser envoy to one uncontrolled city space. If they don't have any, they send it to a friendly space instead. But this way, this card is going to give them, you know, a lesser envoy no matter what. But now I get to force them to expend in order to just, you know, they can put it anywhere uncontrolled. So they can like put it in Argos or something. But how much tremendous value is there? Well, they can take the Hellespont away from me. That's probably the most valuable that I see right off the bat. So we'll do that. Athens only building a ground unit. I'm going to deploy my fleet in Athens itself. It'll allow me to raid them, which again takes Attica away out of their hands once more. And then I don't know what to do with my $3, right? He gets a bonus if he's sieging during the reset. I think this is the last chance because I only have 2 cards left, which means I get to play 1 card to deploy him, and then 1 card to raid siege. So I'm gonna put him out there so that I get a bonus of getting a talent and don't lose the army strength. Okay, that's not that big a deal. But now what do I want to siege? Yeah, I don't know. You know, it's not like, maybe I want to send him as a fleet, to be honest, to give him the flexibility. Because if he's sent as a fleet, I can send him pretty much to a lot of different places on the board, not just to Athens, which I'm already dealing with. And he will convert to a hoplite in order to siege, so that works pretty well. Athens is going to force Sparta to play their piece, but they get 2 things out of it. An envoy to Cyclades and the Ionian coast. Cyclades doesn't really help me. Ionian coast, I get to cancel something out. Let's just take his away from there, because that's easier. And let's take this away. But that takes some of their possibility out. Now, I have a land unit. That means I can't immediately react I don't have my Desperate Times yet. I don't have a card which allows me to do anything like that. So I have to deploy my land unit. What was I planning on doing with this fucker? Ah. Corinth, I can't reach anymore. So I guess I go for Thebes. Unless there's something, you know, I don't have Persia, but I have Macedon. So I could, you know, hit like Thessaly or something along that line. Well, just Thessaly, really. Or Thebes. See, Thebes isn't going to do me shit unless I take it. And my chances of taking it aren't particularly good. Let's go for this. Low on cards. I'm counting on the Polemark getting spent. That would just be a raid then. Fuck. See, if he gets spent, I can discard a card. I've got a card I want to discard. Not the Black Sea Grain, although that might be useful. But I want to discard this Theban Stratagems. The Black Sea Grain, hey, I kind of neutralized that. If the Polemark gets spent, I discard a card. He'd have to get spent on my next card, which means all I do is raid. That means my next play would be what? Like, I have one more card to play, so I would only be able to deploy something. It wouldn't actually go anywhere, but it could serve to fight his fleet. Let's send the Strategos to defend at $3. I'm not sure. I may go for the siege, you know, because that would potentially gain me Thessaly. I don't have the harbors. I don't have any of the siege bonuses, but I would have Macedon adjacent. But I'm facing that. What is the adjacency rule? Is it number of pips or is it something else? Let's see. If more adjacent unrated friendly controlled spaces and allies, not points of spaces. So like this is 1 point, this is 1 point, but they're equivalent. So I wouldn't get a bonus from that. So I'd be basically looking at my one die, which probably isn't that useful. I kind of don't want to leave him out there. But you know what? Sparta doesn't know that, and they don't know that I'm going to discard a card, so this might all work. 15 minutes, and it can go a little further. So we're going to play these Neodamodes. Rebuilds my Sparta Elite. Not that I particularly want to, but there we go. Gotta do what the card says. Don't have any other options, really. Oh, first I raid. And that gets me $1. That raid of Athens is all I really needed to do. Do I want to siege Athens? Why am I putting him out here? Oh, he's already out. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be able to siege Athens. I don't really want to have a siege in play, so I'm just going to pull him back. It's the first time I think I've done that. Because generally it's like, might as well roll some raid dice, whatever, but I don't want to drain the money and whatnot. Now I've got one more attack I can make. What looks promising to me. I can't do anything about that land army, but I could take the Cyclades away I could conceivably take the Hellespont away. I don't know about his card. So here's where CDG type games that are event driven, but especially with a deck of cards, are really important, because I may have, I have foreknowledge. Now, should I not? This is one of the big strategies. So I'm not really too disturbed if I realize that, hey, maybe the Hellespont is of more importance. I don't know that he has it in his hand. I don't know that I care all that much. So I'm gonna roll on an odd. I'm aware enough to think about it a little harder. Right now I'd be going for the Cyclades though. Yeah, we're gonna just deploy this to the Cyclades and try to take that out of his hands. Because it's not like he has the Hellespont here. However, yeah, there's nothing there. All right, on to Athens. I could figure out some way to, to possibly gain something there. Did I fuck something up? See, I could siege something, but that, might give something up if I went and sieged this or whatever. This is probably too hard for me to siege. He has no assets available. Now, I did build one. He has no assets available, so I could do one of a couple of things. I could attack Naxos, drive him away from there, get rid of the raid. Or I could try and take the Hellespont, but then there's this problem, and I really want to get rid of that. Okay. First thing happens, raid. I get a buck. Okay. Do I leave? Yes. Because I don't think I can take a 2-pip city. So I go home. That retires him. I get to discard a card, which will be this one, which may or may not show up. And then I play a card, just this. That'll also go up here to remind me that that's got double victory points. And I deploy my fleet over here for a battle, which both sides are going to end up getting a card. Let's take a look at what the values are. Right away, looks like it's +2 for minus home territory. +1 for Sparta to begin with. Good chance Sparta's going to play a card. I've got this, gain 1 battle strength, but your losses will be increased by 1. But that means I'd end up in a tie, and I'd take 2 losses, he'd take 1, and that would just put me further and further behind. I don't see doing that. So I'm going to pass, which means Sparta could just pass and take it in their pocket. But they have, if you have home ground advantage, no, can't do anything. I actually can't do anything. So I'm forced to hold my 3 cards. That does mean, though, that I win the battle, which still has the same effect, right? Oh, boy. Yeah. Should have played the card. Should have taken the victory instead. And he doesn't have anything special, so he goes into the spent pile. Oh, we have leader loss checks, but they actually don't matter. Oh, no, Aegis is a real person. Okay. Yeah, nothing happens. Oh, and they might improve. I forget about that. Yeah, it's not just leader loss. Okay. We got the 2 victory markers out there. Athens is out of cards. Sparta's got 1 more action to take. Might as well finish the turn. At the end of the turn, you have less cards. There's less to think about, less to do. You're less likely to be actually hitting anything and doing anything. So what do I got? I got the Athenian Temple Fund. That comes back. Nothing I can do about it. And I got nothing to deploy. I got nothing on the board. So I'm going to say I do nothing. And that means if we go to the mat, I'll show you the results. So we ended up with Athens, because they're losing the game, getting 3 Olympics to 1. I throw these in the cup no matter how I pull them. I'm going to get at least 2 Athenian Olympics. So they win and get the token. And that means they also, got more cash out of it. Again, that is a nice little catch-up mechanism, right? I like that on the turn-by-turn aspect. I just feel like I feel like that's less historically, grounded than the idea that, like, you would get really depleted between scenarios. What's that going to mean? It's going to mean we move here and clear cut. Wow, we got a whole lot of leaders, don't we? Who, at the start of a land battle, you may spend 1 talent to promote 1 participating asset. Wow. I mean, there's guys who have a +1, but this is his unbonused. And Alcibiades, when he makes a fate roll, add 1 success to his roll. What is a fate roll? Is that any roll of the dice? That means he's going to be really good at sieges. See, we don't have a definition of fate here, but I think it's any die roll is a fate roll. See, are they called the fate dice? Should have a picture of them. Card ongoing effects, yeah. Okay. There should be a picture of the dice. Jesus. I mean, obviously not there. Are the dice explained anywhere as dice? I seem to remember they were, but I'm expecting there to be a picture. What do we got here? Do we have the term here? Custom dice. Not fate dice, custom dice. All right, let's just keep looking. Do we have anything that says dice? We don't have a picture of the dice, which is the way you find the things in these Euro-style rules, right? Like, what are the rules on something? Look for the picture. It's the only fucking way, because there's like... But they're not discussed. They're not discussed. But I swear they are, because there's something that says something about success and failure, right? Now, maybe the assumption is just, you get the skull, you get failure, but I remember them talking about how, what the value of the dice are. What the meanings of the dice are. And I'm just not fucking seeing it. And I mean, I'm looking for words, too, where it says dice, right? It says battle cards, not dice. It says leader tiles. I'm looking for all control discs. I'm looking for all these bolds. I'm not seeing dice. There we go, finally. Nope, sorry, they're just custom dice. Yeah, I don't know what a fate roll is. Is that specific to leader loss? And this is the thing. You use terms, you need a glossary for them. You need them in the index. You need something to be able to get to those terms and find out where that term is defined. I don't think it's defined, but maybe it is. Maybe it's only the effect of battle consequences. Let's see. Leader fate. So there's leader fate. Okay? Does that make it a fate roll? Maybe. Like, siege didn't say siege fate, but you see, you give me too limited a thing. Now, this could say a leader fate roll, but again, there's very little space on here. And he's the same on either side? Wow, that's really pathetic. He's the same on either side. It's totally useless that he gets a bonus. Whatever. All right. Well, no, I mean, you know, it's not useless. Like, he doesn't get a bonus being on his other side, except that instead of a fate, he gets what? A talent? A favor? Something. I don't know. Whatever it was that the designer pointed out to me that I had to find, because let's look at the leader fate roll again. I'm guessing that's what they mean by fate roll, because it says leader fate. I don't think anything else says fate. If already veteran, he gets a battle card. Yeah. He says that's an important way to gain battle cards. I don't know. But it makes Alcibiades more valuable. I don't know what, because you don't necessarily want more than 2 battle cards ever. All right. Anything else I got to do for this turn? I don't think so. I think that puts me to the second turn of Nicias. I hope it's the second. Yeah, it's a 3-turn scenario now, and which isn't bad, except if it's screwing up what the deck is doing, and I actually don't think it is. I think we want to reshuffle the discards at the end of each period, presumably. Like, we want to get some of those discards back in and recycling, so that they don't just end up in a pathological state where that deck just keeps getting bigger and bigger. 5.5 hours of playing Raid. About 3.5 of which were spent trying one task again and again and failing again and again, just missing it by a couple million points, and finally I just gave up and said screw it. Took what I could take. I'm back up here to try to cool down a little bit, because my intention had been to read rules to something else and maybe take a little nap and all kind of stuff like that. And I still have a couple hours, but all right. So we ran through this. Big issues with the regional. Hellespont switched over to neutral. Attica is over here now. I think that's about it. But you can see, I mean, Sparta's just gaining so much. They've got piles and piles of cash. 18, 20 bucks at the end of this, as opposed to, what, 14 for Athens. And Athens is supposed to be the richer country, right? They're just losing. They're losing across the board. Now, historically, you could make an argument that at the end of this war, they were losing that badly. But we got another section coming here. And what they weren't losing that badly in was between the First and Second Peloponnesian War. So, you know, like, they were winning at the end of the First, and it was able to turn around because they pissed off their allies enough during the interwar segment. There's nothing that, anyway, we've talked about that mechanism. I feel like Joe Biden. You know, like, there's only so many times I can say it, right? But I've got to. Okay. Hoplites, you can see what's the big difference? Well, the big deal is, sure, the Spartans would be a point ahead, but they have a bunch of major cities now. They have 3 major cities, whereas Athens has none. And now these go away. And there was nothing new to build. Oh, ship-wise, both sides built as many as they could. That means Athens built twice because they're behind. Yeah, they're behind in economy, they're behind in shipbuilding, they're behind in everything. And yes, it should snowball to that point at the end of the scenario, but it just felt like Sparta had too big a jump at the beginning of this one. given the difference in the positions. And now it's time to deal the action cards and start the rounds. I don't know if I'm going to do them or not, but I can look at the cards at least. Thoughts about these guys. So, if you're playing the Grand Campaign, I don't think these are going to disappear, right? These are going to be important if you're playing it as written, as opposed to my kind of modifications that I half-heartedly put into play, and that where it's like the winner of each scenario matters to the overall concept of victory. And I assume that the world would continue on historically. Like, I assume the game would produce a historical starting point, for the conversions, which it kind of doesn't. I mean, I'm not expecting that it gives me the historical starting point, then I just play one scenario after the other, right? I'm assuming that it gives me something that has a believable historical background. And again, I'm just harping on the same issue. But these guys, in my view, should go away after this scenario. They determine who wins this scenario, right? But what you actually have, if you look at the historical situation, what you have is Athens has fallen by the time we get into this final one, which is the Corinthian Theban scenario, which, sure, Athens may not have fallen in that. They may actually be aligned with the revolt or whatever, but historically what happened was they were gone. So the importance of whatever grain is coming from the Hellespont, I don't know, wheelie legs. Sicily had a lot of grain. I don't know quite what this is meant to symbolize, but yeah, if both of these are Spartan control of the Hellespont counts double, making the grain important to prevent it. So you could make an argument it's more important to Athens, right? Yeah, it really is. The only reason it's important to Sparta is to prevent Athens from having it. And then we go to this, and, well, Sicily is important, period. I'm a little iffy on the degree of control that Sparta has right from the beginning in Sicily. My feeling had been that Sicily was truly neutral throughout the First Peloponnesian War, and it wasn't until, until the attacks were made, and is that Alcibiades? I think so, but on trying to grab Sicily as this sort of grand strategy, primarily I think to get grain again. The same problem that they had here, they needed grain for Athens because they couldn't feed themselves because they were, among other things, one, they were getting very, very heavily populated, probably too much for the city to support itself anyway, for the surrounding area, but also their fields were getting raided every year. All right. But I think under the campaign game, and we can see when we get to the transition between the two games, but I think under the campaign game, these shouldn't matter anymore, if it's no longer Athens that's really the leader of the opposition to Sparta, as it were. Anyway, time to deal some cards. And I think we're going to have a reshuffle. We did, and I shifted things over for the Ionian War here, which we'll be getting to next. 4 cards, 2 to each player out of the original deck. A couple of notes there. One is, sometimes I deal, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, So I got to be kind of careful not to do that when I'm getting close to a reshuffle situation, because the cards from the old deck should prefer, well, if there's an odd card from the old deck, it preferably goes to Sparta, and I have to make sure that happens. I'm not sure yeah, I think there's a possibility that that might not happen with my way of doing things. The other thing is, man, I have always loved the Athenian owl. It's just something so cute about it. I don't know. All right, let's take a look at what Sparta's cards are. We get the Megalopolis. You put it on a metropolis space and spend it and make it into something bigger. You also get to send an envoy there, which is important because if you already control it, you still only have 2 cubes in it, I guess. So you'd have to put that extra cube in it. And that is this piece here. And remember, that's going to boost your army strength. So that's a very, very valuable capability to have that under my control. Starvation. If you have a place besieged, you get to kill off some influence. Envoy to Megalopolis. Spend a favor to send a greater envoy to an uncontrolled Megalopolis. If you do not have any, send a lesser envoy instead. We're not seeing the colonies yet. I expect to see them this scenario. The home garrison, we've had that diplomatic overture, that's pretty normal. The envoy, pretty normal. Just to get an idea of what the new cards are going to be. Citizen colony. See, this says colony, but it's not. It's, the eastern stuff. Here we go. Place the matching colony marker in an empty colony space, then send a lesser envoy there. If it's the Ionian War, it is not. Place all remaining colonies and remove this card. Ooh. So I think what would happen is you'd do the first part and then the second part during the Ionian War. Which means what? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 colonies. So one might show up this, there's no reason Athens would want to discard this card. So one will probably show up this time. Then next time, one will show up getting a control marker, and the rest will come up as uncontrolled additional cities, which can change the balance of power. Surprise descent, we've had this before. This was awesome. Corinthian schemes, often Perdiccas, that's the Macedonian. I already have them, so I'll just get a card off of that, I guess. And this is kind of useful. However, I just don't have the money and power to continue fighting Sparta. Part of me wants to just say, it's over, man. Face it. We'll see how the next transition works, if it's as problematic as this last one. And I suspect it will be, because it really seems like the designer's intent was to provide that sort of, you get to keep most of your advantages between scenarios. It just lets you, snowball to that being able to completely defeat the opponent. I'm not saying that you wouldn't completely defeat the opponent, although not all of Athens' allies were stripped from them, most, before Athens itself fell. That's actually something Strategos kind of gets wrong. I think Athens is unable to be attacked as long as you control anything outside of Athens. And that is not really appropriate, but yeah. So what does that get us to? That gets us to the beginning of the turn. Okay, I guess we can try to do some. Best choice of cards here is the Diplomatic Overture. I would have to spend 2 favor. I don't have that, so I can send just a lesser envoy to a neutral space. The question, of course, is where's there a neutral space that I particularly want to grab some kind of control over? And there are quite a few. My feeling is that what I want to do is strip Athens of power more than I want to gain additional power myself. I want to take away their capability to make money or whatever. I can't really do anything about Chalcidice, but where they're getting a lot of money from. But, I could try to cancel out Cyclades. Athens, if I take another one in Athens, I cancel that out. that I think is probably my best choice. So I'll go with that. Just to take the Attica. Like right now I have Attica and I have all the advantages for it, but they could conceivably turn that around. And again, if I know the decks and I know what cards have been spent and everything, I can play a different gamey type of game out of it where, you know, I'm counting cards and making decisions based on that and everything. I don't feel like that's a war game anymore when you start playing that way. It's one of the problems I kind of have with CDGs, to tell you the truth. And this is close enough to that. But you know what? When I play solo, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. And when I play opposed, it probably doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Because although I may know some stuff, and I'll warn an opponent about the really important things, like say in Twilight Struggle, the scoring cards or something like that, I probably don't know a hell of a lot more than they do. What I do know is more linked to my knowledge of history than, you know, than to the specifics of the game. There are some games where there's an exception to that. The one that I can think of, it's not a CDG at all, but it's got events in it. And it's SPI's Star Trader, which has a couple of events that are of great importance, but one of them in particular, which is the inflation event. If you watch my videos from far back, you've heard me talk about it before. Basically, this is a single event that can win you the game if you know about it and nobody else does. And if everybody knows the game and they see you exploiting it, they too will try to exploit it. They'll at least cover what you're going to gain by it, right? Kind of like, I don't know, I used to play a lot of stocks and bonds. And there were a couple of different ways you could try to play that game, right? But if you were playing to beat your opponents and you're ahead of them, you could just make sure that you have as much of a certain stock as they could possibly buy. Something very volatile that's at a low price or whatever. You make sure that you can cover, you know, that you can make as much off of it as they can. You know? I believe that's a game in which you secretly write down what you're going to take. But in a game where you didn't secretly write things down, you could actually just, you know, cover the value without the secrecy. Unfortunately, or fortunately, both stocks and bonds and Star Trader, you kind of do your actions secretly, right? Some of them. I got to say this much, though. With the inflation thing, there's a sequence of play, and you announce that you're taking out a loan, and if you end up like selling off all your ships and no. If you end up taking out a huge loan based on everything you have, and then buying stuff that's not necessarily worth much, like that you might lose 5-10% on very easily if you tried to liquidate it, everybody kind of knows what you're up to if they know that shit. And yeah. Anyway, what am I doing talking about all that? I don't know. What the hell do I want to do here? Again, I don't know. Based on my battle cards, I have a lot of land battle stuff. Not much that actually helps me either. That one's not too bad. This one maybe not too terrible. Oh. I mean, I have enough advantages over there that I probably win any land battles anyway, just like I probably win any sea battle anyway. I'm very good at sieging right now, so I think I will build myself a land force. I don't necessarily want this because I have no way to stay there. Is this helpful to me? Not particularly. Not right now. This is a late in the game, a late in the turn card. So I will build this. The question is, with all my extra money, do I want to buy another battle card? Why not? Well, the reason why not is I have basically enough money to deploy a force every turn. But We don't know what that does. We don't want to look at it too carefully. Let's go on to the Athenians. Things that I feel really captures the period and whatnot very nicely is the I do something, you counter it by doing something, and basically there's a feeling of stalemate throughout. You don't have to play that way, but you always have the option, or almost always have the option, if you have the resources, to counter what your opponent's trying to do. And that feels very true to the period. Start things off with a bang with the surprise descent. And if I had access to Corinth, I might do that. Because I have the Corinthian schemes, which I would want to I would want to create kind of a snowball effect, right? Hit Corinth. If I can take it off of, maybe a lucky siege setup. But I may try to aim for that kind of thing. Right now, though, I have a citizen colony. I send a lesser envoy to a space. Oh, no, this isn't the one. It's the new colony, right? Oh, no, I was thinking about the new colony, but I think I'm going to hold off on that for now. Although it may well go here, because that'll kind of put me in a closer position. The control of the Athens space sends a lesser envoy to a space in Cyclades or Ionian coast. Athens is no longer a problem. Ionian coast, I can get myself... Is Persia mine? Persia's not mine anymore. I don't want to be next to Persia. That would be problematic. So I'll play here, giving myself the edge on that for later, maybe. But it's just sort of a, let's play that now, get that out of my hand. And I, too, think that I want to deal... Well, I think I want to deal with the Corinth. Oh, Corinth! Wait, Corinth is a... Uh-oh. Come back here. Give me that. Corinth has a port. I always forget about that, but it's over on this side in the north. Corinth has a port to it. What if I hit Corinth? Well, he's set up to hit me, so it doesn't really help. I think I'll go with what I did, because it's more of a delaying action. And let's find, do I want to battle? Is there a card I might discard? I might discard the Corinth card. I want to hold off on that. Get some money. If I launch an attack on him, it might be useful. I feel like I'm giving up the initiative, though, by doing that, right? Did I spend my money? Probably not. 6. Fuck, I don't know. And see, this is what happens when I have the fucking camera on. So this was 3, 6, 7, 8. I think I did not spend the money yet. You would know better than I do because you're watching the camera more than I am. All right. Obviously, I'm not capable of paying attention to what's going on. I'm too interested in chattering or whatever. So let me go downstairs and try to find something better to do. I decided, hey, I'll play a little bit of Crusader Kings. First of all, because I kind of wanted to do a new scenario. And I started looking. First of all, it takes like more than a half hour for the game itself to load, and then by the time that happens, I'm kind of like less excited. I started looking over the scenario, other scenario options. I wanted to do something early. And I just couldn't get excited about the early start date stuff. I'm like, well, I don't know. The king that I have is kind of looking at me in the saved games, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of remember that still being kind of cool. But I forget how slow the game gets after you play 100 years or so. At least on, this is supposedly a kind of hyped up gaming computer, but several years old now. But certainly better than what I have. And, I remember this used to happen with it too. It just, as the game state grows too much, it becomes painful. Now, it may be that using normal hard drives is the issue. I'm not coming back to play this right away. I got like 40 minutes, but my back hurts and I just don't want to. I know that I'm not in a better mental state than I was in. But man, I could not get into the Crusader Kings either. So it's like, yeah, what the hell do I do? I think I'll just watch videos. I am on the wee hours of Wednesday morning. A whole day passed because what happened last night, you know, the fact that I tried to play Crusader Kings again, that's a sign, right, that the things that I'm doing right now aren't keeping me happy and engaged enough. And I was struggling trying to play this. And we'll get back to this in a moment. So, you know, that didn't work out. I ended up going downstairs, finding something to do, to fucking around on the computer while I was playing Raid, something else online to screw around with. And played a lot less Raid and did a lot more playing with the other thing. But, you know, it's just, I guess the same thing that I was kind of hoping to do with Crusader Kings, which was just get addicted, run through until I passed out, you know, from exhaustion, basically. And that's what happened. But it meant that, like, today, I slept almost the whole day. And now I'm up on here. What's worse is, I don't know if it was the way I'm sitting in my chair downstairs. It doesn't usually hit me this way, but, you know, I was leaning forward more and everything. Or maybe how I slept or something. But I hurt my back. And that sucks. All right, so where are we? We're in the midst of the Peace of Nicias. You know, ideally this would have been finished last night, this part of it. But I just couldn't go with it. And we'll start with a Spartan turn. Things I have to do when I'm away for a little bit is familiarize myself with what the hell I'm doing, right? Some of it is just the board positioning. Okay, I can look that up as I, you know, look through my cards and figure out. But right now I am deploying, I have a mobilized hoplite that I'm going to get to use. And Athens has one in response to me. This is an important, you know, this is something you have to have in mind whenever you're looking at your cards and whatnot. I also have the victory point markers out there. I'm aware of those though. It's the, hey, what am I deploying right now? What's in motion? With my strategy to try to finish Athens off. A little early. Played an Eastern Envoy, got rid of Cyclades and Ionian Coast holdings that they had. I have an interesting thought in my mind. So I have a couple of things. I have a Megalopolis card, right? We talked about this already. But the question is, where the hell would I want to put it? You want to put it someplace where it's going to have an impact on, you know, your life, right? And it has to be a 2-point city. I get a lesser envoy sent to the city, which means if I already control a 2-point city, I can upgrade and keep control of whatever I grab. Now, obviously, I could grab something like Megara, but does that actually help me? I have a lot of pips in Corinth already. Likewise, I have a lot of pips in the Peloponnesus or in Sicily. What I really want to do is be able to project. The big advantage of a Megalopolis is that I can project power, right? I can send a hoplite army out from there. Well, where am I missing that? Well, one place to look at is Byzantium, but Byzantium, I can't go through the allies, so I would only be able to go to Chalcedon with that. Not very useful, but one that is used, and like Corcyra, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere because it's an island, right? But one that is, the only one that is of any interest is Pherae here, which would allow me to project power down here, a place where I don't have that capability, right? Macedon held by the Athenians. So that is probably where I would end up aiming for. I could also do something and like build one with the intention of sending an envoy to it. I don't think that's terribly useful. This has to be an uncontrolled, right? Yeah. I don't think that's of great value, but the problem there is there aren't any uncontrolled ones. Anyway, I'm going to continue with my siege of Athens, and I brought Brasidius up to continue to launch another siege. Basically, if I can keep pushing the Athenians and forcing them into ugly battles. Athens, I feel like my best capability here is to play the new colony card. But let's look at what my options are. Rhium would give me a pip in the Corinthian Isthmus. Doesn't really do me a damn bit of good. Declia would give me this. That might be of some value. Right now, if I can hold Athens, I'm still going to be knocked out of Attica. So that is one of interest. Pylos is going to be down here. Again, that's not going to really help me. And Heraclea is up here. I might be able to challenge that a little bit. These are all 1 pip locations. But I get a bonus lesser envoy. These do not have wooden pieces to go with them, which is fine. I mean, it's kind of weird because I'm not pulling anything off of here otherwise because of all those tasty wooden pieces. And this goes back in the deck because on the next, in the Ionian War, it's going to generate the rest of the colonies. And now I guess I have to launch my attack and then try to figure out what the hell to do. This is important because it gives me money. I've got that swoop down and do nasty shit card, which I could use for the surprise descent. I could use a trireme for that. And maybe that's more powerful. He's building another hoplite, so I think I actually want to build another hoplite. Put Demosthenes there. I don't want to buy cards, so I only have 2. Sparta actually has 3, so they might have wanted to buy them, but I don't know. They didn't really think about it. Actually, they have 4. Damn. I threw out this Navy card. I have a bunch of cards. I could, like, even this out if I play all my cards and Sparta doesn't play any. As it stands, I think I'm just going to hold my 3 cards. Because the only way I can do it is by killing, well, I could kill Cleon. But I want to get that 2 talents off him. Now, of course, then the question becomes, does Sparta have a card that they feel like they need to play? They don't. I got this one. Send a lesser envoy to a non-enemy controlled space in the battle region. Playing that doesn't hurt me. Except there are no non-enemy controlled spaces I can send to. So I guess the battle is just resolved with that big... It's actually a +4, but Sparta's just so much in the lead here. Neither side is hurt. The Strategos is driven off. And Cleon gives me $2 because he initiated the battle here. And that's actually a big part of why the battle happened. And that cycles us back to the Spartans. And again, I'm like, oh, I want to take a break. It's horrible because I've gotten kind of in the habit of playing non-CDG type games, non-pulsed games. Sure, Banish All Their Fears had a lot of pulsing in it, but it was like, I don't know, this sort of series of actions, and but it's just hard for me to judge the series of actions when each time I have to evaluate my hand. I don't know. It felt like less of a stopping point to hold off. Is that the last thing I played? Or did I slip something in between there? I don't know. I can't remember. And we launch another siege, and we build another hoplite. Shit me. Cleon was involved in the battle, not Demosthenes. I got confused. Let me put this back on top. I don't know what order I drew them in, but let's just leave it like that. I took Cleon into effect afterwards. I get a little confused. Launching Demosthenes on a battle. Now, I got myself an extra card off of King Perdiccas, but I don't really get to use Demosthenes' cool advantage now because I have too many cards. And we're going to fail again, right? The numbers are just horrible on us. But at the very least, we'll get Attica back next turn if nothing changes. We're like, digging our claws in for dearest life, basically, just trying to survive. It really doesn't, it doesn't feel like a competitive game anymore. It just feels like Sparta has gained way too much advantage. Again, the battle's lost. I forgot to track this last time, but both leaders got a success. This time I'm going to do this right. Demosthenes is already flipped over to his veteran side or whatever. That means I get yet another battle card. As both sides are picking up a huge hand of them, but I just can't afford to use them. The cost in terms of doing it. I could have spent enough to get myself to a victory, but what would the victory do? I'm not going to be able to turn this this difference around, and eventually I'll just hit 0, and I'll be down here next turn as a beginning. Actually, a little screwed up. Almost every card in the game says something like, do something, send this, great. If you do not have any, send a lesser envoy instead. I think I have to spend a favor, and I get nothing out of it, because there's nowhere that I can validly send a greater envoy to. There are no uncontrolled megalopolises. It doesn't oppose contested. And actually it's weird because contested, I just looked this up, contested is on page 9. It has a very specific statement which feels a little weird to me here. Any space containing a rated or under siege marker is contested. Contested spaces are never controlled by anyone, no matter how much influence is present, which to me means if I could get this under siege or rated, it would then be contested and therefore not controlled, and I could envoy it, even if it's under siege. Maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But anyway, the home garrison, do I really want to, this is a really valuable card to hold till the end. But I don't know what to play. Like, I don't want to spend a favor, get nothing. In this case, I can force him to throw a battle card away. And then the third one is I can get a battle card. I guess I'll draw a battle card, but I hate this. This is one of the few times where I felt in the game that I'm throwing away a card no matter what, not for the effect that I want off of it. Now, it doesn't bother me when it's in a card that's just going to help the opponent. For example, there's ones for if you own Corinth or Thebes. You have, you get the advantage, which whoever plays the card. And Athens is holding one such card, and they're looking to try to discard it. That's actually why they mobilize the Polemarch here. But yeah, I'm gonna, I guess, launch another siege on Athens and just, keep marching in there and keep being defeated back. And it's not like I'm gaining anything, but I'm holding on to my position and forcing Athens to keep trying to defend the one place they kind of care about. I don't know if they're being stupid in doing so. In cards, I don't want to play this. I want to discard this, so it won't be my card to play here. I can't start a sea battle. Getting a navy strength, that's kind of cool. It's a couple bucks. It might be worth doing. But what I'd really like to do is this surprise descent. Unfortunately, I'm having a really hard time finding any place that it would help me. Let's take a look at the different options here. So I'd spend 4 talents to mobilize and deploy a hoplite or trireme, get an immediate raid, that gets me a buck back, and then begin a siege. Okay? I think, I'd still have to pay $2 for the siege when it comes to prosecuting it. But what could I take that would do a damn bit of good for me? All right. My siege die roll would have to be at least 3 dice to win against a megalopolis. It would have to be 2 dice to win against anything else. I'm probably not going to be able to get more than 2 dice anywhere. Let's take a look. The dice are, well, the Sparta space gives me a bonus die, but I got no way to get there. If I have more aligned spaces adjacent to something, I would get an advantage on it. Where would I have that? I don't see anywhere. Like Macedon's a possibility, but those guys are supporting each other. This is equivalent. This is equivalent. I just don't see anything where I get an advantage off of that. I'm not getting any dice off of either of these. So basically I'm looking at spending $4 to hit some place that has a 1 pip on it now. That's the best I can do. So what happens? Well, let's say I went to Sicily. I wouldn't change anything. The control would stay the same. Same thing running through over here, anything over here. Boeotia, I don't see any advantage for me there. This, the megalopolis, makes that not work for me. Byzantium, if I could get 2 dice on it, I would go for, but it doesn't do me anything. I could attack one of these neutrals and hope for the best. That feels like a bad idea, especially at this point in the game. So kind of the only thing that I see is trying to change the situation in Attica. Right now, I will still not gain Attica, even if I defend Athens. So I guess that's the one thing that I can do. And I will launch an immediate raid there, and then I'll also be deploying the Polemarch down there to fight. This is the situation we see right now with the Polemarch leading the attack to defend Athens. This goes away. Nicias leading an attack here, where I'm going to get an extra die at Lorient. And let me put the siege marker. I believe I actually have to siege it. I can't just choose to use that card for an expensive raid. The battle is going to be the same as the last ones. Really ugly for me. Of course, the fight is resolved to no effect. We got leader success die rolls on both. That gave a battle card here that improved Agis so that he's a little better. If he's sieging Sparta, if he's sieging Sparta, no. If he's sieging, comma, Sparta gains, it's there. I just can't see it very well. Wait, yeah. Sparta gains 2 talents and does not lose an army strength. But otherwise, this is what we see. The Sparta army is going to start melting away eventually from this. We got a battle card over there. You know what I'm forgetting to do? I'm forgetting to give Sparta all the talent, all the favors that they've been getting for all these battles. I forgot about the spoils of battle, man. Yeah, that's not good, but I'm driving them away at least, you know, each time. But the important thing is I can discard the Corinthian schemes, and I'm also down to one card with a reasonable amount of money. And now I get to conduct my siege. And because I picked this place, it's adjacent to multiple of my cities. Wow, I forgot I had put this down. We actually had the advantage anyway. What that means is I will be getting 2 dice on my siege. I have to pay $2 for it still, though. I will be getting 2 dice on my siege. Gives me a better chance. And look, we succeed. And that gets us $1 back. My spirit's kind of conveying it here, but it just doesn't feel like there's much it feels like the game has entered into this sort of really static situation. Sure, the cards can shake things up a little bit, but I'm just not feeling like I can get a grip. Neither side can really get a grip on the enemy. This is a minor advantage. It doesn't really help, right? It gives me a little bit of padding. That's really it. But this gave me the advantage I needed. Now, honestly, that attack was not terribly useful, but I got some of the money back and I got a space, and I can't complain too much, I guess. But, yeah, and Sparta's going to get 2 turns in a row here. No, they're going to get 2 turns. 1, shift, 1. You never get 2 turns in a row. Even if Athens was out of cards, they would still get a turn. Athens isn't deploying anything. That means it's time to hit them yet again. I got to play my card first. But the truth of the matter is they didn't fuck up. First of all, they have this. But I don't mind making them spend that. But secondly, they actually have this fleet action, which will allow them to deploy and fight a naval battle anyway. Innovation card, I had to play it. It forced it with throwing a battle card away. I put my navy into place. Not going to get to use this for any value. I'm going to have to spend a favor and get nothing for it from the way I read this. Unless I'm able to, you know. No matter what. Because I don't have the siege established, right? I don't have the siege or the raid established, so this is just going to be, I lose a favor. Oh well. And now they get to play their fleet action and come in with a free naval battle. This is actually competitive. So let's look at the points. Sparta has the stronger navy, and they have the stronger allied fleet, so they'd be at 2 points to begin with. But home territory is Attica, and I've got the Navarch here. He doesn't get anything for his. So we're at 0 to begin with, and Athens gets to start playing battle cards. And now there's an opportunity for something to actually happen, at least in the battle sphere. Of course, all the favors gone. I had to swap batteries. Cards, Athens opens up with the frontal assault, giving them a battle front. Remember, it was at even, now it's at 1. Great. What does Sparta want to do? They want to play the allied navies here. I'm sorry, the message of friendship. Well, it actually doesn't matter. Send a lesser envoy to a non-enemy controlled space. Yeah, there aren't any. Allied navies, I have the allied fleet advantage over here. I would love to send a lesser envoy to a harbor space in the battle region. Unfortunately, Lorien's not a harbor. I think I threw a boat down there, and I shouldn't have, but I would have been able to do the same thing, right? No, it was a fleet. I fucked up. Well, let's counter it by allowing this to work, because that card shouldn't have worked, and this card shouldn't work. So that kind of neutralizes the effect, I guess. I don't know. One was a battle card, one's a regular card, but screw it. But that means Athens now has the advantage, so they probably don't want to play any cards that add to their strength right now. They want to play cards maybe that increase the rewards. I have one that did so, and Sparta doesn't feel like they have a hand to be able to win the battle anyhow. So they're going to allow themselves to lose. There's no disadvantage on the die roll for losing the battle or anything like that. I don't know how fair that is. The Navarch is now dead, so he flips over, and that +1 doesn't happen anymore. This goes down here, and we again are driven away, but this time we lose 2 to 1, and a favor goes here, but he has no favor. There are no favors available, which I think is a $1. Let's see here. Fuck. Gains 1 favor. Fuck. Yeah. And I don't remember. I think it's 1 is gained. It says page 7. Of course, we looked something like this up before, and it didn't give me the right answer. You gain a talent instead, which is good, but it's not a favor. Yeah. And that puts me on the last Spartan action, which is the last action, which is the envoy to Megalopolis. I have to spend a favor to get nothing, and there's no reason for me to play a card or to deploy anything or anything like that, which means we go here, and I'll come back with the report of who won the most gold. Athens swept the Olympics. They get to keep the Olympic marker. Well, there is a favor there. What's up with that? Why is that there? Because he played it with this last card. Okay. And that is the end of this deck. We had a reshuffle recently, but as we enter this new one, Lysander and Thrasybulus show up. Jesus, they have a lot of leaders. And the Ionian War cards get shuffled into this deck. And that's about it. And this video goes up for the Peace of Nicias. And before I send the video up, I do want to note that it is even more, once we get through with the Ionian War part, it's even more disturbing if Sparta's strong position continues to snowball into a period which is really supposed to be, Athens is conquered historically at the end of this, and Thebes and Corinth are just so disgusted by Sparta that they're able to raise up, all of, or many of the former Spartan allies against them. And I think for the most part, the things that were Athenian kind of disappear. So I'm hoping that the transition there is of a very different nature than the last one. I feel like the last one didn't handle the degradation of the alliance of the Athenian alliance that would have been there, or the mirror version of that, which would be the Spartan alliance, because they were winning. But I'm really, really worried that this is just going to keep snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. The historical situation is basically Sparta won, right, here. And then if you go into the next thing, it should be essentially a revolt against whoever won. I fear that it's not going to be that at all. All right, let's send this up, but I'm just giving you the warning. I haven't looked at how that one works at all. At the very least, with the last one, last time when I played my sample game, I played through the first two wars of that first scenario, and then did the transition, looked at the board, thought about it a little bit. Felt like it was still a pretty balanced situation. Athens was ahead, but not by as much as Sparta was in this one. And now it's just getting worse and worse.